tip number one, make sure you read all the comments. I mentioned it like this so many times, and it's very important. There might be a person that has a lot of good reviews and everyone's like saying that this person is good, and then maybe very few bad reviews. Pay attention to those bad reviews and even ask the host, ask the host about that and like how they address that or what the situation was, and that kind of will give you a sense of who this host will be and how they might treat you while you visit. So yes, I say it, I don't care if it's a 1,000 comments, make sure you read those comments because they will give you an insight into who this host is and how their apartment or neighborhood is. Because of course the host is gonna always say good things about themselves or their apartment and even try to hide some things that guests would not like to know. So make sure you read everything, and the guest comments, or they're not gonna lie, obviously, because this is their experience, and most times they're not gonna lie. So this is their experience, and they're gonna tell you how it was. So make sure you read everything, the good, the bad, and everything. So yeah, even if the bad is very few, you pay attention to that, and of course follow your gut. Tip number two: pay attention to how your host responds to you. If your host is taking like 5 days to respond or over a day, I would say the normal policy should be 24 hours. It shouldn't pass 24 hours. If it's taking like more than 24 hours, it's probably not a good sign because it shows that they don't care about you and they don't care about business. It's just like any other business. Like, would you want them to not respond to you as soon as possible? It doesn't reflect good on this person. So Airbnb is still a business. So yeah, definitely pay attention to how the person responds to you, the frequency to which the person responds to you, and all that. And even like in the messages when you ask questions about things, or maybe trying to ask about some kind of doubt you have, or based on a negative comment, the way the Airbnb host responds kind of reflects on how that person is and how your experience might be. So that is my second tip. Make sure to assess and evaluate the feedback you get or the messages you get from your Airbnb host. Tip number three: pay attention to the payment policy. Some payments, so like Airbnb has 3 payment policies, I believe: strict, flexible, and moderate. So pay attention to that. So for example, if you have a bad vibe from this person, you think this person is not good, so look at that before you even pay, because if the person has a strict policy, you would not get 100% refund. So if the person has a flexible policy, you get 100% refund as long as it's 7 days before the time of your arrival. If you've paid and you don't like this person, you can get 100% refund. Plus, you will never get the feedback, but you get 100% refund of the actual payment of the apartment. But for the strict one, which this one actually had, you only get 50% or even less. So pay attention to the payment policy before you even pay for a room or a whole apartment for Airbnb, so that you can evaluate and make a decision. Last but not least, the fourth, I think that's the fourth. The fourth thing you should take note of is your environment. I know this has doesn't have a lot to do with Airbnb, but it kind of does, because that's where you'll be living. And so, for example, the area I lived in Turkey, in Istanbul, was the Beyoğlu area. And this kind of sounds mean, but my friend who is Turkish, she told me that the Beyoğlu area, the people that live there are kind of European wannabe. They want to act so anti-Islamic and whatever. So like me, myself, who looks very, Islamic, and maybe they think I'm very conservative or whatsoever, it's like so not them, and it's not something like they look down upon it kind of thing. So maybe that contributed to my living there, I don't know. But she kind of told me that she was a little bit nervous when she realized that I was gonna live there. So yeah, that's something to know, of course. So I think like you should research the area you're gonna live in when you look on Airbnb and see the neighborhood. Kind of do a bit of Google search to know about the area and things that you've seen and all that. So yeah, obviously the thing that my friend told me something as kind of like an inside knowledge on something that the locals would know. I don't think you can Google that and find that, but like it's good to have a general idea of the neighborhood you're gonna live in. So that would definitely have an impact on your experience there. So yeah, let's rehash everything I just said. So first tip, make sure you read all the comments on Airbnb, good, bad, everything. Even if it's 1,000, I advise you to read every single one of them because it gives you a better idea of who you're gonna stay with. Tip number 2, evaluate and assess the communication you have with your Airbnb host. Does the person answer you 5 days later or 72 hours later? This is very important. Tip number 3, evaluate the payment policy. Is it flexible, is it moderate, or is it strict? So like I said earlier on, the one I had was strict, so I couldn't even get 100% of my money back. And last but not least, which I just mentioned, do a little bit of research of the place you're going to be staying, because that would definitely have an impact on your experience. All right, that's that. So guys, that's it for me, and I hope you enjoyed my story, although it's kind of fun to tell right now. At that moment when I was living it, I was not enjoying my moments, but I was trying my best to enjoy Istanbul regardless of where I was staying. And I hope no one ever experienced what I had to. I've heard war stories on Airbnb, so this is obviously not the worst, but for me this was the worst of all the Airbnbs I've lived in. Right now, I think I've had 7 Airbnb stays between Turkey, Turkey, Spain, and Italy. The others, I kind of stayed somewhere else, but yeah, this was my worst Airbnb experience. And yeah, I still like Airbnb. I would use Airbnb for the time being because I've always had good experience. And even when I had this bad experience with this lady, it wasn't Airbnb's fault, and they compensated me. They addressed the issue and were concerned. They were genuinely concerned. So yes, I am still pro Airbnb, and yeah. So if you had any experience or you're nervous to use Airbnb, feel free to message me at contact@hijabiglobetrotter.com, and also feel free to comment down below about your own bad Airbnb experience and what tips you have for others to take note of. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more about my experiences and my travel adventures, subscribe to my channel, my YouTube channel. Also, join me on my blog at hijabiglobetrotter.com. All right, I hope you have a nice day. Enjoy. Bye. Hasta luego.